The Oort Perimeter, Chapter 24. Mike studied his tactical display as the ship shuddered under him. "Eric, can you give me more power to the shields in the forward starboard quarter?" "They're getting a bit thin up there," said Sydney. "I'll see what I can do," replied Eric. Pendleton rolled the ship hard right and flew through a thick debris field littered with the shattered remains of both Earthfleet and Varnock ships. Hundreds of pieces of wreckage bounced off the shields and created a twinkling sparkle of light as they did. As he worked to carefully, yet quickly, pick his way through the debris field around him, he spotted something that concerned him. 2 frigates and some fighters approaching from 17.23, he said. "Got 'em," said Barker and Sydney simultaneously. One and Barker immediately turned their guns and then poured a hailstorm of cannon fire into the approaching fighters as Sydney lobbed 3 powerful volleys of torpedoes at the frigates. All of the Varnock fighters quickly vanished in a blaze of fire and smoke as the 2 frigates took heavy damage before veering away. The London then came in behind them and lobbed a second series of torpedoes at the 2 frigates, which ripped through their shields, severely wounding both ships. The Ontario, in turn, swept in behind the London and finished them off, leaving no survivors. Even so, the battle was turning heavily against Earthfleet, despite the incredible bravery and fighting prowess they were displaying. "Admiral, we may want to consider arming the Protomatter torpedoes. Our lines are about to fold, and the Varnock are still coming through the breach," said Sydney. "Not just yet. We're still in this fight for the moment. I don't want to pull out my trump card until I have no other choice. Keep the pressure on them for now and we'll see how things look in a couple minutes," said Mike. "No offense, sir, but I don't think our lines will last that long." The ship then shuddered again as several more Varnock ships exploded under them. "Admiral, it's getting a bit crowded in here." "Permission to pull back," said Pendleton. Mike pulled up several more tactical reports, but grew more and more concerned as he studied the pitiful state of his remaining forces. They wouldn't be able to keep this up for much longer. Pendleton, meanwhile, continued to work his way through the growing cloud of debris around him that was making fighting increasingly more and more difficult. "Sir, permission to withdraw," said Pendleton, more insistently this time. He then watched as a pair of Varnock frigates, in an effort to avoid a flanking attack by a group of ship killers, turned hard to starboard, and accidentally collided with the remains of a heavily damaged and crippled Varnock dreadnought. The impact caused all 3 ships to explode, and be vaporized in a massive energy blast that shattered them like glass. Pendleton then took extreme evasive maneuvers to avoid the shower of fiery and deadly debris that was thrust at them by the explosion. "Sir, it's getting a bit too cozy in here. We need to pull back," he said insistently. However, Mike still said nothing, as every bone in his body told him not to give up, to fight on, to hold the line, despite the inevitable, and pray, like he'd never prayed before, that help would arrive in time. But reality was quickly telling him that it was already too late, that all hope was lost, and the best he could do was to flee to the safety of the Kuiper perimeter and wait for the inevitable. Just then something unusual happened. "What the heck?" said Sydney in surprise. "You seeing it too?" replied Pendleton. "Yeah, I am." Mike looked curiously at the 2 men. "What are you 2 seeing?" he asked. "Sir, the Varnock have disengaged. They're pulling back," replied Sydney. Mike blinked, and then quickly glanced over his tactical maps. To his complete and total surprise, the Varnock were indeed disengaging from the battle and rapidly retreating back through the breach in the shield. "What happened? Are they regrouping?" he asked. "No, sir, it appears they're leaving the area," replied Sydney. "What should we do, sir?" asked Pendleton. But Mike said nothing. He was still trying to wrap his mind around what had just happened. There had to be a logical explanation for this strange behavior. Finally he said, "All right, let's take this time to regroup, gather up the stragglers and find anyone left who can still fight. And someone please contact Society Medical and tell them start scanning the debris for survivors and portal any they find to safety." "Aye, sir, sending message now." "However, there's also a message coming in for you over subspace." "It's Admiral Sevik," said Martin. Sevek, said Mike in surprise. Yeah, put him through. Sevek's image appeared on Mike's command display a moment later next to the myriad of tactical and fleet status readouts he had spread out across it. Greetings, Grand Admiral. It's nice to see that you're still alive, said Sevek. Admiral, you're a sight for sore eyes. Another few minutes and we'd have been toast, said Mike. Sorry we're late, but we were delayed by the usual bothersome legal entanglements. Are you and your fleet all right? We're bruised and bloodied, but we're still here somehow, said Mike. Good. Let me go ahead and clean up this little mess for you, and then we'll see what we can do to help patch up those wounds of yours, said Sevek. Thanks, said Mike as Sevek's image flickered and vanished. He then called up the other commanders, and said, All right, everyone, the Gaekvan are here and will be taking over this fight for us. So let's regroup, and then plug that hole so that nothing sneaks through until they can take over for us. Aye, came the joyful, unified replies from all his other ships. Sevek closed the channel and then turned to his command officer. This is the Varnock Black Fleet. Do not take them lightly. Execute the battle plan exactly as I have given it to you. If we do this right, this battle will be over quickly. Yes, sir, said the officer. Sevek watched as Mobiek's battered battle fleet struggled to reform and solidify a viable resistance against Sevek's armadas. However, Sevek's armadas would not allow them to do this as they quickly sliced up Mobiek's remaining forces into small, manageable pieces that were easy to defeat. After this, his forces swept in and began exterminating each isolated pocket of ships with brutal efficiency. This quickly drew the ire of Mobiek. Admiral, the Varnock commander is hailing us, said a crewman. Ah, so we finally have his attention, said Sevek. Put him through. Mobiek's image soon appeared on the main display. You traitorous Chapaji Jakal. How dare you fire on the forces of the Varnock Black Fleet, he screamed. But Sevek was unfazed, his face remaining emotionless as he studied Mobiek. He knew he had the advantage, and wasn't afraid to flaunt it. Your people have lifted their death order against the Jinn. You will either withdraw and leave Gaekvan space now, or you will be annihilated, he said flatly. Mobiek hacked twice and spit at the screen. We will do no such thing, he screamed. The screen then went blank. Sevek cocked an eyebrow, and said, So be it. He turned to his commander, and said, Concentrate all firepower on the command fleet. Destroy them and Mobiek's command cruiser with all prejudice. Show no mercy. Yes, sir, said the commander. With brutal efficiency and overwhelming firepower, Sevek's forces quickly surrounded Mobiek's command fleet and crushed them like an egg, annihilating all of their ships with brutal efficiency. Seeing the danger to their commander, the other members of the Black Fleet rushed in and tried to assist their great leader in his hour of need. However, their efforts were quickly brought to nothing as Sevek's forces easily repelled them, leaving their ships unable to do anything more than watch in dismay as Mobiek's command cruiser soon came under attack, and was quickly destroyed. Moments later, deprived of their leader and any hope of victory, the remnants of the Varnock Black Fleet signaled their surrender. A man hurried into the dining room of Philip's chateau, stopped at the end of the table and bowed. Speak, said Philip. Master, Admiral Mobiek has been defeated. The Chapaji still live, said the man. Very well. You may withdraw. The man bowed in respect and then hurried away. Licinius, who was leaning against a nearby pillar, stood quietly and watched the man leave. He then turned to Philip, and said, What do we do now? Your plan has failed. Philip grinned. My plan has not failed, nor has our ultimate victory been lost. Only the path down which we must travel has changed. Our victory is still guaranteed. One of the 9 has been weakened, and a second will soon be crushed. All we have to do now is wait, and bide our time. Then, when the moment is right, we will strike again, and the 9 will become 7, as one more step in our plan of conquest will become complete. He then took another bite of food and grinned with fiendish delight.